All right, hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the From the Jump podcast. I'm your host, Nick Ozuna, Dunk by Nicks on all social media platforms, and I'm here with my co-host.
Yep, I'm Andy Belay, 5'10". You can find me at Andy.Belay on Instagram and TikTok, and Andy.Belay.bounce on YouTube. And we have a special
And
guest if you want to do your intro
today
for him.
we have a special guest, my dunking coach, a man who defies both age and gravity. He's one of the highest jumping 33-year-olds that I know. Let's jump right into it with the man that teaches me how to fly, Ambrose the Unk. Amin.
Hey, appreciate that, guys.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that. Glad
Yes,
to be
sir.
on. Honored to be on.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself, like a little intro, besides what he said.
Yeah. I think I
Yeah,
think I kind of packed it away there.
got a long. Yeah. So I'm 33 right now. I guess I'll start it with like growing up. I played sports since I was like 6, mainly basketball and soccer for a while, and then once I got into high school, I kind of focused on like basketball and track and field. And I think that's around the time where I got like really, really interested and probably you could say obsessed with like human performance. With basketball, it was like wanted to jump higher, wanted to dunk. I bought like Air Alert. I researched everything you could get. I bought like the vertical jump Bible, all the stuff that like John, because John and I are around
Yeah.
the same age. All the stuff that John did, I was doing. But then I didn't know if that would be lucrative to go into fitness. So I went and studied business, worked in corporate for like 10 years, investigating like financial crime, um, worked as a consultant, but was always still obsessed with like human performance, running faster, jumping higher. And then it was only until I would say 2022 was when I said, screw it, like I'm gonna pursue my passion. So I started training the general population folks, and I started training like athletes. Um, and then I quit my full time job at Facebook. A very cush job with high pay, lots of benefits to coach guys like you. So that's pretty much it. I've been doing that, and then I kind of started my own dunk journey. I was like, well, let me take all the things that I know about dunking, and I wanted to. I think I started my dunk journey around 31. So I'm going on year 2 of my dunk journey. Started at around 30-inch vert. Currently got a 36. Goal is 40. And that's yeah.
Speaking of that, even though you started your journey really, really late, I was gonna say, even though you started your journey really, really late, what are your current PRs as far as like vertical and dunks?
Hell yeah. Uh, PR. I think dunk camp recently, which was like what months ago or early or this summer.
Like
36
That was
Aprilish,
inches.
August.
Yeah. What's up?
like Aprilish or May?
Yeah,
Oh,
August.
I think it
August.
was like June or something. Yeah, 36 running vert. I think it was around like a 32
Okay.
standing vert. Um,
That's actually pretty
yeah,
good.
and
Like,
I like rarely work on anything standing. Yeah. So like
Uh,
my when I started my dunk journey, I think my running vert was like 30. Like,
that's already pretty good
so,
though. That just kind of just goes to show
yeah,
like your
6 inches
background.
yeah,
in
I did
2
have a
years.
decent yeah, I did have a decent background. I didn't have like a 40-inch background.
When you said that you wanted to dunk like as a kid too when you were playing these sports. So has it always been like low key a goal for you?
It must, I mean, it's hard to like think back, but it must have been since I was like getting all this like air alert and I was like on all this stuff. So it must have been. I think it's like deep in the hooper's like subconscious. Like I think to wanna dunk. Yeah.
What was the big turning point? I remember for me,
Yeah, I would.
like any inspiration. Did you like see anyone specifically like pro dunkers, NBA players, and you're just like I want to do that and like commit to that or
Yeah, I mean, I think growing up, so I grew up in Houston, right? Born and raised in Houston. So I was watching like the 2000s Rockets. And so I don't know, maybe I'm
was
dating
that
myself
Hakeem?
here, but
T-Mac.
uh, Steve, Nah, yeah, I mean, yeah, Hakeem was old as hell
Okay.
when I was watching, so I was like, "What's the hype?"
Right,
Like,
right,
because he was
right.
old as shit. By the time I was watching, no, but that was like the Steve Francis and Katina Mobley
Oh, I don't,
days,
I don't be knowing about
and
them.
Steve Francis was, like bouncy as
Yeah.
hell. Andy, Steve Francis?
I do know
Oh
Steve
shit.
Francis.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
Bouncy,
I was like,
bouncy.
Andy might know.
He's
Yeah,
a
so
Russell Westbrook bouncy
Really?
type.
Like he was short?
Yeah. Steve Francis was like, yeah, so Steve Francis was like
Okay.
6'3", and he's kind of built like Russell, not as fast, but like he was just
Strong.
bouncy and yes, really strong. Dude, he had like humongous
Mm.
calves, I remember. And I would always see him like going down the lane and just like double clutching, and then I would like do that, and I'm like, how does he do this? Like I'm already on the floor, and he's still like doing all this. And so I think that like I kind of molded my game after like
Right.
guys like that. And so like when I was, and that was a time where like, a little bit later on, then D Rose kind of came on the scene. So I think I like to model my game after like
Mm.
slashers like that. I still don't have a three, and so I was always like
Andy.
slashing like
Andy.
mid range, getting in the air, like getting contact.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
exactly how
so
I do,
like
bro.
right, yeah, we're all slashers at heart. Um, yeah, so I think that's what it was. Uh, it's funny, guys will try to pick me up when I'm one. Guys will try to pick me up like one on one when I'm like, like doing like my dunk sessions, and they wait until like I'm an hour, 2 hours into dunking, and I'm done, and they're like, "You want to run?" And I'm like, I can't really rely on my shot at this point, so I'm not gonna. I'm like tired, so I'm like,
No, tell me this isn't
nah.
true. You're either jumping high or you're shooting good, but never both.
Yeah.
Wait,
You're
what'd you say,
either
Andy?
you're either gonna jump high or shoot good, but you're never gonna do both. That's how it always
Oh
is for
yeah,
me.
yeah, 100%, 100%. I really actually haven't hooped in a minute,
I don't even think the Nick or
but I
Ambrose
kind of want
Mobley
to
one
get
has
to
gone
like
down.
a comfortable spot with
So
my
what?
dunk. Oh yeah, oh yeah. There's like a little bit of a
Yeah, I
lag
think
maybe,
so
I think.
too. I'm on like
Um,
cellular data right now.
but yeah. Oh, are you on? You're
Nah,
not on
bro,
Wi-Fi right now?
Their Wi-Fi connection here is low key bad. I didn't.
I am.
Huh? Yeah, I'm at Andy's house, by the
Dang.
way. We're just in different rooms because we didn't want the echo. Yo, but
Fair,
we
fair.
got some more questions. Oh, here's a good one. So, what would you do differently looking back at your training now?
Um, so just a little bit of context. Like I started my dunk training, and I basically was on my own, quote unquote, for I would say like 6 to 8 months, like my first part of my training. And then once I like sprained my ankle really, really badly, I was like, all
Right before
right,
we met.
I'm just gonna like enlist jump.
Yeah, right before dunk
Yeah.
camp.
Yeah, basically right around when we met at dunk camp. That was when I was like, you know what? I'm going to get on THP because they can just rehab
Mm,
me faster than maybe I could, because like I'm assuming they deal with athletes spraining
right.
their ankles all the time. Mine was pretty bad. I had like a boot and crutches and stuff. And I was just really like impatient with dunking. I just wanted to
Mm,
get it ASAP. So that's kind of why I did that. So I would say, I guess, in my first, because ever since then it's been pretty good. But I would say my first 6 to 8 months, um, I think just understanding load management is probably like the biggest freaking deal in terms of like jumping volume, weight room volume, sprint volume, all those things. They're all going to be really, really unique to, I think, each individual. And so, like, yeah, basically, like finding a good sweet spot of like, especially like I'm in my 30s, right? So, like, your tendons just over time, like, yeah, it's just wear
right.
and tear. And so like I was doing like all the types of training that I used to do when I was really young, and it was like really intense. Like I was like going off of a couple of different programs. I even was like coached. I even was like briefly kind of coached by Ben the
Oh,
Bounce. I
really?
love Ben the
No
Bounce.
way.
Yeah, yeah. He's well, I don't know. There's a couple Bens, so you may get him confused. He's
Is it
actually out
Ben
of
Bounces or Ben Bounce?
no, no, no.
Okay.
I'll tell you. Yeah, so he's British, and he's like an Olympic bobsledder. And so he basically like, yeah, so he focuses on like really, yeah, like jumping very, very high, sprinting very, very fast, very explosive movements. So I was working
High
with him for a
output,
bit, but what's up? Yeah,
like
high
high
output,
output training.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. But he didn't really deal with like a lot of like dunkers specifically. So that's why THP was like a much better fit because then they can, help you actually with like technique and a bunch of stuff. But I would say like doing all of those types of training, like I mean, I love him and all that, but like, yeah, I don't think they really accounted for, yeah, that
Mm.
load management that I was needing, especially at my age. And that was what I learned a lot better when I started working with THP, was really like, yeah, tailoring that like sprint volume, jumping volume. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, I could just do what I
Right.
did in my 20s and go right back to it. I was like, well, why not? My body's done it before. Why can I
Mm.
not do it now? And it's like, it can over time. So I think that was like the biggest thing because I ran into a shit
Right.
ton of injuries, like Achilles tendonitis, patellar tendonitis, just from like ramping it up way too quickly. So I think I'm a lot better at that now, and it's the same thing with the weight room, like checking your ego at the door. Like yeah, just kind of going at your pace because it's like, yeah, it's slow and steady wins the race, as you guys know. Like you just got to stay healthy and
Right,
stay
right, and
consistent.
I think as just getting coached by you in general, like I've never even known what load management was until you started coaching me. And so when you first started coaching me, I was like, this guy's saying I can't play basketball. What do you mean? Like I thought this sport's all about basketball, but no, and it's
Right.
just like there's so much more that that goes into it, and just like your body needs to recover to perform at its peak. And yeah, but definitely,
Fair. We've had many a
we've
conversation
had
about that.
many, many conversations.
I feel like the best thing about being like coached. I
So
feel like
what?
the best thing about being like coached by
Yeah.
someone else is like. I think the best thing about being coached by someone else is like. There's this saying. It's like yourself can't see self. So like, say you're pushing really hard and you don't think you're gonna get hurt,
Getting
but other people,
philosophical.
yeah, other people can tell that you're gonna get hurt, and your coach is telling you, "Don't do this. You're gonna get hurt." But if you don't
Mm,
have a coach and you're just gonna keep pushing, you're eventually just gonna hurt yourself, and that's what happened to me, and that's why I got a coach
right,
because now I don't have to think. They can just tell me because I can't tell everything that's going on the outside of
right.
my training.
Sometimes that second perspective is so useful.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, no, facts. Yeah, and I was gonna say like, seeing John and Isaiah at dunk camp, it was exactly that. It was exactly it. Like where Isaiah was, I think, going for the record, but like it just wasn't. It just honestly like wasn't his day. And then John was kind of in his ear, being like, "Hey, like you should cap it. Like you're gonna get injured." And obviously, Isaiah's he has free will, and so he was still like, all right, I'm gonna still go for it anyways. And then pretty much later on, I think like in the week, he was like, yeah, like it wasn't there, but yeah, like he knew he probably shouldn't have. But my point is that it's really good to even a yeah, I think it's just really good to like have that
Mm,
perspective. Yeah, I think it's really good to just have that perspective and someone always looking out for you because like you're gonna get caught up in the moment. There's no way that you can't get caught. You're a human being. Like, like everyone gets caught up in the moment. Everyone gets caught up on adrenaline. You need someone to like check yourself. So like, yeah, I mean that's why I got a coach. Coaches
right,
have coaches. Isaiah's
right.
got coaches, and yeah, I think like it's almost impossible to like yeah to like really be objective with yourself because you're yourself. Like even when I used to work in corporate, they would always say, "Hey, come QC my work," which is like quality control. Basically, someone's like proofing your work. So you would never get anything out to a client without someone actually like reviewing
Right.
what you just did because how can you be objective
Mm,
with your own work? And so I feel like that goes with training as well. Like, yeah, load management, form, technique, like on exercises, all that stuff. And like Andy was saying, like, yeah, a coach could probably see it a
mm.
mile away. You can't until like maybe it's like too late. And
Yeah,
not saying
literally,
you're
I
not
was.
smart or anything,
Yeah.
but yeah, you're just you.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I've been deadlifting this heavy. I wasn't able to lift for a month, but I was deadlifting this heavy, so let me deadlift this heavy again because I'm
Yeah,
pumped.
Yeah.
why
Next
not?
thing you know,
I
two
just
bulge
did it.
discs later,
Yeah.
now we're here.
Yeah, Andy, what was your deadlift max at like at your peak? Was it like around 5
It
or
was
more
around
than 5?
6. Yeah.
6? Fuck.
I sumoed 585 and I conventional deadlift
Oh my
565.
God, bro.
Dude, so like were you just like in a like a power lifting mode, or you just wanted to get strong as hell?
I was training myself, bro. I just wanted to get strong as hell. So everything was low sets, low reps, heavy as
Yeah.
fuck,
Mm.
as fast as I
Because that's
could.
low key like power lifting, right? Especially learning sumo. Like I bet you don't hear many dunkers being like, "Oh yeah, I sumo X." Like they probably don't even know. No one's like learned sumo, so that's a very technical
Yeah, and that's where I realized it was becoming more of a side thing that I needed to stay
detriment.
away from because I was trying to push for numbers, changing up my form, working on deadlift, not working on dunking. I was like,
Right,
why am I
right.
doing sumo? There's no
Dude,
point.
dude, Dude, going back to your original question, Nick, to bring it all the way back around, Andy just made me think of something. Yeah, like I would say, going back to like things that I would change, very similar to Andy. Like when I start, actually a little bit before I was dunking. So before I officially started dunking, I kind of low key was like, I should
Mm.
power lift. I should power lift, get my numbers up, and then when I start dunking, I'll have like a really good base. I would not have fucking done that shit. I wasted like a lot of time doing that shit. And I think Andy kind of did the same thing. And so like similar to Andy doing sumo just to get his numbers up, on a squat instead of like, what's the best way to
Right.
get your squat up?
Well,
Low bar.
Low
I would
bar,
low bar
hack
squat.
squat. Yeah.
Exactly. So I would low bar, yeah, and it wasn't deep knee
uh,
flexion, right? And like I got up like pretty decent in weight, but like it didn't fucking really transfer that. Sorry, I don't know if we can curse. It didn't really transfer that much. Yeah, it was like cool. My ass got strong, and my like adductors got strong as hell. But I like completely neglected my like kind of quads because like I just was obsessed with getting the numbers up. And it's the same thing with like sumo and all those things. So it's like I was really like obsessed with getting the numbers up. So it's like you basically what they say like you lose the forest for the trees. And I was like, if I'm really focused on dunking, like I should have been just jumping once a week.
right,
Like
right.
fucking I wasn't even jumping. I was just like, oh well, if I just get really, really strong, it was that bro
Yeah,
that
yeah,
bro
yeah.
knowledge where
Then I'll be able to jump higher because I'm lifting heavier.
right, they're just like like there's a time and a place for lifting
Right.
heavy, but it like there's a time and a place and there's like how you do it. It's not just like yeah, like that can't to me in my opinion like jumping is the priority. So it's like if this is now screwing up your jumping or your like jump sessions, then like yeah, maybe this like yeah, if you're getting like hip and back pain from like lifting, and it's like, well, what are we really doing here? So yeah, that's what I would have done differently. Is just started specifically dunk training
Mm.
earlier, and then I would have just like implemented like one or two jump sessions and stuff like
Uh,
that. So yeah, I kind of like lost a year
Yeah.
of time
Yeah, I think
theoretically.
we all lose a year or so of time just trying to figure it out because just getting into it is it's a very difficult thing. But
100%.
I have another question. So, what made the full shift?
Yeah, yeah. I think people don't understand that.
So what?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, there's a there's a
Yeah,
lag.
there is a
Sorry,
little bit of
bro.
a lag.
I said there's a lag, bro. Sorry,
No, but I was gonna say. So, what made?
dude. Next time y'all fly down to Houston,
Yeah, we'll do an in-person one for sure, and we definitely won't be on a hotspot
Bet.
next time. This is not the most ideal situation at all. But okay. So I have another question. Are we ready?
yeah, all good, all good.
All right. What
Yes,
made the
sir.
full shift from corporate big money to pursuing your dream fully? What was the big shift for you?
What was the big shift to small money? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So
So you were a financial consultant, yeah?
no, so I was technically I investigated financial crime. I did a few things. I consult for like Yeah, I consult for, yeah, fraud is one of the crimes. Money laundering is another crime that I was investigating for, bribery, corruption. So I did that. So I did that in my corporate life. I was gonna say like I never wanted to do that long
Mm.
term anyways. So there was always in my head I was always gonna quit my job around 30 because I think around that time you'll have saved up like enough money and you'll get like a lot of skills from corporate, and I feel like that's a
So this
nice
was in the plan
transition
from the
because
beginning.
after that in consulting, at least where I was at, like yeah, kind of. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the timing worked out because I was roughly around this time going to be doing that. But what was like the big push was, I would say, like two things. I would say one thing was this one guy. So I also do consulting for small and family owned
Hmm.
businesses on my own, right? And this one guy came to me, and he's like starting to become a trainer, and he was like, I need like help with like the business side of things. So I basically like came up with like a business plan for him. Like I did some research and I said, okay, this is what you need to do, right? This is how you're going to structure your pricing. We'll get you set up legally and all that stuff. And so I was like basically like going through this, making a whole business plan for this guy
Hmm.
being a trainer. And then I was like kind of thinking to myself, like, you know, the difference between me and this guy is like he just has the balls to like do this. Yeah, that's it. He's just doing it. Like he doesn't know. He actually knows
Right.
less than I do,
You
and
have
that's
the
why he's
ability to
coming
do
to me.
exactly what he wants to do, and it's
And
what you want to do
so,
too. So it's like, why not? Yeah.
yeah, I, I could just execute it. Yeah, so I think that was the big thing. That was like part A of like the big push, and then part B of the big push was like I was like dating someone at the time, and like I know about working out and stuff like that, but I don't know about like the personal training
Okay.
industry itself, right? So I was like dating this girl, and she wanted to get like a bigger booty or whatever, and then she told me like how much she was paying for like this trainer, and I was like, holy crap, like that's a lot of money. And I was like, well, what are y'all doing? And she was like, they're just like basically doing like circuits. And I was just like, holy shit, like you pay that much money for someone to give you like
Yeah.
bullshit
Yeah.
advice?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like the fitness industry is probably, or the coaching industry and training industry is like probably like
Yeah.
mostly trash. So I just felt like I had a lot of value to add as like a trainer. And then I felt like from the business side of it, I had already done the research. So like now is like the perfect time, and I had saved up some money. I'd saved up some money. I had bought some properties. I was in like a good place, and I was like, I think now's the time. And also like I don't have a family right now. Like I'm not married. I don't have a family. I'm like I don't want to like get to the point where I have kids and all that. And in the back of my head, I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna be a trainer now. Like so, I was like, I need to make that move and transition like ASAP. So yeah,
So it
that's
sounds like it
basically
was a
what happened.
mix of good, being you in a good financial position, and also you just looking at the world and what people were doing, and
Facts.
being like, wow, why can't I just do that? Especially if it's something that I'm into. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also a gap in the industry of like
Right.
quality training. I think at any level, right? General population, athletes, like I think there's a huge need. I mean, that's why THP, in my opinion, has done so damn well. Why? Because there was a huge
Hmm.
ass need. That means that not that many folks was offering that quality of
Hmm.
like a service, especially at like obviously that like that
And
scale.
that actually circles into one of our other questions. We were going to ask you what you thought about these other vertical jump programs and if you think they're good. And
Just like any specific ones or like just in general.
In general,
yeah,
like
yeah,
just jump
because
programs that are
there's a ton of them.
online.
You know, there's a ton, but like, there's for sure bigger ones and smaller ones.
Yeah, I would say, and Andy probably knows where I'm probably going to go with all this, but like, there's a lot of nuance, and it's almost getting into a more philosophical of like, is a program what's better, a program or a
Right,
coach kind of thing, right? And it's like a program within itself can only just
right.
go so far. Sure, there's probably a lot of like not great programs to be honest. But even if a program is quote unquote good, like it can only go so far because it doesn't take into account a bunch of stuff. It doesn't take into account someone's training history. It doesn't take into account their
Right.
injury history, right? Like let's say Andy didn't know jack shit about shit, but he had his back injuries, and then Andy wants to hop on a program. right? And what about if that program has like, heavy deep squats? And like Andy's like, well, the program says it.
I'm gonna
Like,
just do it.
you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Yeah, I got to do it. And so I think that's the hard part with like programs in general. Like, look, I would say they're good if you're like a newbie and like you just don't even have much training in general of like getting in the weight room at all. Like, I mean, you touch a weight and you're just
Yeah,
going to
right.
get gains. So, like, yeah, I guess like a program is good
Or
in
if you have
that
like little
regard.
money.
But once you start becoming like, I would say like more of like,
Because like I feel like if you have the money, you should just
yeah, but
invest in a
I was
coach.
gonna get to that. I can get to that. I can get
Okay.
to that point. Yeah, yeah. I can touch on that point in a little in a 1 sec. It's a really good point. Because I'll probably go on a little mini tangent
Go on, go
on
on.
that. But but yeah, like, but yeah, I think that's gonna be like if you're a beginner or like a noob, I think programs are probably are decent. They're like a decent option. You obviously want to do a little bit of research though on like who is giving that program out. Like if they're no offense, but if it's just an athlete that just jumps high, that's not good enough. Like it needs to be probably someone with some sort of coaching background, a certification, some sort of education, some sort of background and actually training people, not just like, "Hey man, I got bounced, this is what I did." Cuz it's like we all know like causation isn't
Mhm.
correlation, right? So it's just like maybe this dude like hasn't really done any of the shit that he even put in his program. We don't know.
For people who
So I would
don't
say once
know,
you get yeah.
for people who don't know the difference between causation and correlation, could you explain it? Because like
Oh
I know
yeah,
about it
yeah.
from science,
Yeah,
but
it's
like
like
you want to?
yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, yeah. Like basically yeah, like if like let's say some dudes have like a 40 okay, you have two athletes. One is a they both have a 40-inch vert. One athlete just naturally has a 40-inch vert and he just like eats like crap and he like does jump rope and calf raises and he's like, "Bro, like that's how I
Mhm.
got my bounce." And you're like, "Okay, but you've always had bounce." And then athlete B actually started with like maybe like a 32-inch vert, and he trained for like 5 to 7 years, getting his 32 to like a 40. But that was through like actual like good training, good nutrition, stuff like that. So it's like on the surface, you're like, oh well, like things work for different people, blah 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 blah. But you're like, no 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 no, like that like the correlation between like what actually happened for athlete B is like all the training and stuff he did actually helped him. It was very heavily correlated, very related to him getting that 40-inch vert. That other guy that has a 40-inch vert, like he just kind
Right.
of had it. It's not like you can't look at what he did and see like, oh,
So
that was the reason why.
because the beginning
Yeah, I don't
guy
know.
who has the natural balance, because he only does jump rope and calf raises, that cause does not correlate to the other guy getting a 40-inch vert. That just worked for him because he's just a freak.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
what that is that could be a correlation for why, but not a causation. A causation could be they have elite genetics.
Hmm.
There's a third party variable
Yeah,
maybe that people don't know about. It's kind
Right.
of like in science, like say there's
100%.
pollution in an area and people are having respiratory problems. Just because there's pollution, that doesn't mean the pollution is causing respiratory problems. They could have a heart defect from birth and it's
Right.
just something that runs in their family, or it could be the pollution. We don't know. It's a correlation but not a direct causation because you can't find it without probably waiting
Yeah.
for them to die or something.
Right. Right. Right.
Yep, yep, yep. Exactly.
But yeah, were you gonna get into something
Um,
about so I think there's no like people out here who have 30 around like mid 30 to 40s going and finding just a program and not a coach. You know what I mean?
yeah, I was just about to get into that. Yeah, exactly. Like once you start becoming like a more intermediate to like advanced athlete, yeah, and you're trying to actually like push your genetic like
Right.
limits. Yeah, like you definitely need a coach. Like because now you're getting because basically the training demands for you to be more
Right.
complex. And so like, we're organisms and we're constantly adapting, right? And so like in the beginning it's very easy to get you to adapt. right? Because like there's just like a really low ass
Mm.
baseline, and so yeah, you can get away with programs and stuff like that. But again, our bodies are complex adaptive systems, and so because of that, like over time, it's going to get a lot more complicated to keep forcing our body to adapt. And that's why you'll eventually have to get someone with a lot more knowledge, because what you're doing is you're eventually going to
Right.
plateau at some point. You're going to need to get deep in your bag, of which you have none. And so you need to like actually work with someone that does have a deep bag in terms of like coaching and understanding of like uh yeah, like recovery technique, right? Like Andy was giving me some tips like yesterday, where it's like, okay, now my vert is like, getting decent now it's just like these small little tweaks that are going to go like really
Mm.
really far now, versus like maybe a year ago like wouldn't have really mattered as much. So yeah, it's like over time you're going to just need more and more you're gonna need more and more like outside like help in terms of like your training, your jump technique, your literal
Right,
dunking
because it
technique
becomes
and
such
all
a
that stuff.
detail-oriented thing, and
So
that's
that,
what programs lack because they just try to like fit everybody under the same umbrella, and it's just not possible, especially if you're trying to reach genetic potential. Right.
right. Yeah, exactly. And then real quick, I'll just touch on the last point that we were going to talk on, which is like, yeah, obviously a lot of people are going to be like, hey, like I don't have a lot of money. So I don't have money to do X, Y, and Z. So I'll always push back on like, I've been there. Like I've been a high school kid. I've had like, there's been tons of times in my life where I haven't had money. Like, dude, actually, even when I got on THP, like I took a huge pay cut. I was making six figures to making like, let's just say
Yeah,
not six
yeah,
figures. So I took a huge pay cut, and I got like two
yeah.
mortgages, bro.
Bros,
Like Nick knows, like I got a lot of expense. I got a lot of expenses. Like I take care of family overseas. I have a dog. I have like two houses. So I got a lot of freaking expenses. When I got on THP, like I'm not gonna lie, I did not have a lot of money. It did not make sense financially at all to do it. But, and this is where I push back on a lot of folks, but it really mattered to me. Like it was really, really important. And so I'm like, when people say money and time, I'm like, oh, okay, that just shows where the
right.
importance is for you, because you will move mountains. You will move mountains for if something or someone is like very, very
Right.
important to you. Like we've
Right.
all been there. We know. And so like that's what I'll always push back on folks. And now at this point, you have folks like me, THP, you have like online coaches who like are pretty affordable. Like so it's evolved over time to where like coaching has become a lot more affordable. In the beginning, like online coaching didn't even exist, so you didn't even have that option. And if you were probably trying to get a coach, it was probably really, really expensive. So I think times have changed, and the accessibility to like information is just like crazy. So like I still always suggest getting a coach, but also like the amount of free information that's out there. Like you must be a DIY, you got to be a DIY person. You got to be able to consume as much podcast and knowledge as you possibly can and
Right.
educate yourself. But like you can't use money and time as an excuse. It's
Because with
one or the
all the
other.
good
Cool.
information
If you
out
don't
there
have
too,
And
money,
though.
well, you,
literally,
Like I was gonna say, with all the good information out there too, there's a ton of
yeah,
bad too. So people can definitely like end up getting hurt. So it's all about. I think it really is. If it means that
for sure.
much to you, and it should mean a lot to you, because your body and your health should mean a lot to you. Like I would honestly invest in a coach, bro, because you could end up hurting yourself.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
try
What
to
were you gonna say?
understand like scientific method. Like you can go to Google Scholar and find the most objective information about what you want to learn about. Like if I want to see how a squat or a power lift or something, like if I want to see how something affects the body, I can go to a real study that actually happened at a college and see what it says. And then you can see, like, find the bias, like, who ran the study. Okay, well, if a company ran the study, it's probably biased. But if it was just curious as teenagers or, like, curious as college students, like, there's not going to be much bias. There's just going
Right.
to be a test. So you can always fact check. And I don't know, that's what I did for a long time. I obsessed and I did it myself and I looked it up. And then eventually, once I got hurt and I plateaued, I was like, okay, I'm still not a professional, so I'll go to someone
Yeah.
who's not only studied this but got a degree in this. You know, they did more than
Right,
study.
right.
Yeah, yeah. That's facts. I think that just kind of goes to show, I guess, like kind of what we were talking about, where Andy was the DIY person, do it yourself, and Andy's like really smart. But even Andy reached a certain point where he's like, well, fuck, like I am now out of options, and he got really really far. But again, it goes back to also like, well, how far do you want to push this? Right? Because maybe some folks would have been comfortable where Andy was at, and like where, okay, well, I'm not like fully 100%, but I can still like jump pretty decently high. Maybe I'm content with this. But it's like for the people who aren't content and they're really trying to push it, whatever that's going to be, if that's like a 46 inch or that's a 50 or that's like being a pro dunker or whatever. And for me, like I'm trying to see how far I could take, doing all this stuff in my 30s right now. Like, so if that's what your goal is, to like kind of redline it and like push the limits, but also do it in like a responsible way, yeah, I think that's, then eventually, all roads lead back to like getting help.
And I think we're gonna try and wrap this up pretty soon. But I have one last question for you, Ambrose. In terms of your dunking goals, I know you said you're just trying to take it as far as you can at 33, which is already a crazy goal in itself. Is there anything in terms of maybe your day-to-day, like in terms of your lifts or in terms of the dunks you're trying to hit, where you'd see yourself maybe in a couple years? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, I would say the first goal right now is definitely hitting the 40-inch vert. I would say like that's definitely a goal of mine within the next like 12 to, let's just say, like 24 months, to be conservative. I mean, the goal I think all along was like I always wanted to dunk, but then I also just wanted to dunk consistently, and I think that was like that was just like kind of like that was kind of the goal. And then I had to start quantifying it, right? Because you're like, well, what the fuck does that mean? So I think that really means like having around, for me at my height and my reach, that means having around a 40-inch vert. So I think that's where I would see myself on the low end, is just dunking consistently. On the high end, dude, it's been fun as hell, like to start like learning like tricks and shit like that. So like, yeah, I would love to, like, getting some windmills consistently, and like, maybe get an East Bay down. That would be really dope.
That
would
would be
really crazy.
absolutely insane.
I'd be like, I don't know,
my guy.
I'll be like 35 or
That would be
36 or
absolutely
something.
insane.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to put a cap on myself, but I want to put like a minimum. I want to at least get to a 40, and at least kind of like get some and get like windmills consistently. That would be like pretty freaking sick. And then this year, I mean, I think I don't know if we had talked about it yet, but this year I'm actually training for a decathlon, and so like that's been kind of nuts because I'm doing that wild dunk training, and so like in general it's just like being the most athletic I could possibly be, So like I don't know how this, I don't know how the decathlon's gonna go. Like, what about if it's fun and I want to like keep doing it? I don't know.
And man, respect to you, because so many 33-year-olds, I feel like the longer you go, like the older people get, the less people you find that actually want to become like athletes and keep their bodies healthy. So just respect for you being one of the last ones, my guy.
Ain't no pickleball out here. No, I'm just kidding. Appreciate it.
Hey, low key, it's fun though. Have you tried it? I enjoy me some pickleball. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, I've done it. It's cool. It's cool,
Wow,
but
Andy's hating.
I can't tell if is that a thumbs up or a thumbs down, Andy?
Thumbs down on that.
Have you ever played?
They're taking my court I work there. They're taking my.
But Andy, have you played?
I do agree with Andy.
Played?
Yeah, screw that.
Oh my God, bro's not.
I'm good at everything, bro.
I'd kill him on the pickleball court.
They should take a tennis court though. I do agree that they should take the tennis court and they shouldn't take up the basketball court.
Right.
That's bullshit.
That's what I'm saying.
So when volleyball's on there,
there's already volleyball happening on a basketball court. No, because that's a real sport.
Volleyball. It's the pickleballers, bro, and the pickleballers are
actually low key. What may have sustained my bounce was in my 20s. I wasn't really focused on like honestly like getting in better shape. I was just kind of maintaining. But I would like hoop every now and again, and I would actually play volleyball with like coworkers. I actually organized like once a week for volleyball in the office and shit. So maybe that's how I low key like. Yeah, sand. Yeah, no, not court. Sand. Yeah. So maybe low key, that's how I like kept my like what I had, because I basically
Like low
didn't.
level, low impact plyo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you
and
go.
I basically came in with a 30-inch vert, which is still really good for not. I wasn't training, I
Yeah.
wasn't doing anything, but
Hey, but
yeah,
yeah,
bro.
man.
Yeah. Any other
Any
questions you
from
got?
you, Andy? I think.
Oh, I wanted to do a little promo. I wanted to do a little promo for Texas Flight
Oh,
Crew.
here we go.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, if y'all are dunkers that are in Texas and you want to join a community of other dunkers that are in Texas, you need to join the Texas Flight Crew. It's something that all of us are a part of. I'm the founder, and then these are some of the co-founders. We have about 10 members right now in San Antonio, Austin, Houston, DFW, and we're trying to branch off. I have a few guys in Fort Worth. But basically, we're just trying to give a platform for Texas dunkers to show their talents and compete in the National Dunk League on Instagram. But yeah, it's free. It's a group chat. We're just a bunch of people trying to help each other jump higher, get better on social media, spread ideas, and just be overall just in touch with people who are in our area, so we're not alone. That's it. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
If y'all are interested, DM any of us. So yeah.
Well, Texas Flight Crew. Join up if you're in Texas. But yeah, Ambrose, I appreciate you for coming on with us, chatting with us a little bit. We definitely need to get a dunk session in, bro. Like, me and Natty been trying this. We want to come over to Houston someday,
Let's do
bro.
it.
Let's go to Alpha League, bro.
Wait,
Alpha
what'd you
Land.
say,
Let's just
Andy?
dunk at Alpha Land.
Dude, so I think actually that would be good for Andy. Won't be good for me because, dude, Andy, that shit's 10-1.
I ain't
I measured
scared.
it. No, I know. For me, it's not gonna be a good jump session. Yeah, I'm definitely down. Yeah, I'm definitely down. And what was it? I was gonna say yeah, and I'll definitely have you on my podcast. Came up with a new name, Behind the Bounce.
Say what?
Ooh. Announce it right
On
here.
on the From the Jump pod.
Announce it
Behind
right
the
here, right
Bounce.
now.
Yeah, yeah. So it's gonna be Behind the Bounce. So we're gonna take a look into yeah, essentially. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, essentially, I think all we see on social media is crazy ass dunk mixtapes, and then you're like, okay, these guys are crazy, but what do they do? What do they do
Right,
throughout the
right,
week? How did they even
right.
get here? And so I'm gonna be interviewing, yeah, yeah, basically if I'm gonna try to definitely get some pro dunkers, obviously amateur dunkers, and just get context of what their training is like, how they've gotten to where they've gotten. I want to basically demystify the bounce as much as I possibly can, because I think that was something I was obsessed with, and we were all obsessed with at some point of how the hell does this work? How do these guys get here, and how did yeah. So, but yeah, that's it. So behind the bounce, as soon as I get my mic, I'm gonna get a mic and
Right.
all that stuff. As soon as I get that up,
A lot of investment that goes into this
yeah, we're gonna
podcast
get
and
it
stuff,
popping.
man. I'll tell you. This shit's crazy. But hey man, I appreciate you for coming